Hey everyone, today we're going to talk about this new exciting feature inside the n8n, which is a think tool that can be connected now to your AI agents. In this video, we're going to talk about what are the use cases for think tool, as well as what is the think tool and how it works with different models. Specifically, we're going to be testing it with Claude 3.5 Sonnet, as well as the new GPT 4.1 Mini version of the chat model. So let's go to the Claude real quick, to the Anthropic blog, and let's see what they said about the think tool. So now we're looking at one of the Anthropic's blogs or papers, whatever you guys want to call it, that got published on March 20th, 2025, talking about the think tool. Basically the tools that now we have access to in our workflows in n8n to attach to our AI agent. So a lot of people might confuse the think tool with the extended thinking, and actually you can read more information right in this blog, which I suggest you guys all do before you start implementing this think tool inside your n8n workflows. Basically, the think tool and extended thinking gets confused. A lot of people think it's the same, however, it's different. Yes, they sound similar, yet they have different kind of tasks. They perform differently. So the way to think about it, extended thinking, it's basically your model thinks about the response much deeper before generating the response. So whenever you're going to give it an input, it's going to take a longer time and start thinking deeper about the task that you gave the model. However, when it comes to the think tool, it's more of a pit stop. It's going to start thinking after it already generated the response. It's basically the easiest way to think about it. It's kind of like a double check. So for example, let's say you're given an input to the model responds, but before giving you the output, it's going to go think to the think node or think tool. It's going to think and double check itself. Hey, did I do everything correctly? Did I complete the task the way I'm supposed to and in accordance with the client's or person's input? And after it confirms and doesn't find any mistakes, it's going to give you the output. Basically, it's kind of like a double check. You go double check yourself. You want your model basically to stop and think about the response that it already generated. So let's scroll down and let's see also the description of the tools. It's actually exactly the same when you use it in n8n. It comes with the same tool description. Use this tool to think about something. It will not obtain new information or change the database, but just append the thought to the log. Use it when complex reasoning or some cache memory is needed. So it doesn't perform anything new, it doesn't obtain new information, it's like a double check, as I said, or a pit stop. So let's go at the performances that we can see here. So if we look at this graphic, we can see that when we have a nice prompt and a think node attached, a think tool, it performs generally better than just extending thinking or think just a baseline. You can read more about it if you go in and search for this blog. As I said, I really highly suggest you guys read it out before you start using this tool inside the n8n. So something to talk about. When you use think tool, it's very important that you give it a good prompt. So without a good prompt, it's still not going to perform to its highest potential. However, if you have a very nice prompt and a think tool attached, you're gonna see the effects much more. It's gonna be much more visible for you. Something also to talk about is the use cases. So if we scroll down, we can talk about the implementation best practices. You can read it for yourself. I'm not gonna read it all, but to put it in a short form, basically, if you have complex workflows with a bunch of tools attached, with the prompt that has a lot of constraints and has strict rules inside, that's when think tool is going to perform the best. However, if you have a simple prompt with using only one tool or one database, and your prompt doesn't have a lot of constraints and is pretty straightforward, then there is no point in using think tool, because you're just going to waste your tokens, because at the end of the day it goes there twice and it generates the input twice, because first it has to go to the LLM model, then LLM model creates the response, it goes back to the think node and goes back to the chat model. So basically you just wasted more tokens. So I think you should stick to using just simple AI agent with no think tool if you have not a complex prompt or you don't use a lot of tools in your workflow that are attached to your AI agent. Otherwise, yes, you can use think tool with a nice prompt and a lot of tools attached to it. It can perform better. So let's go back to the n8n and let's see how it performs and how it works with different LLM models. So now we're back to the n8n in this very simple workflow that you can see on your screen right now. The purpose of this workflow is going to be to see how think tool even works, so we can check the logs through the AI agent, how it worked, how it communicates with the tool, as well as how different models respond and work with this tool. We're going to test specifically 3.5 Sonnet, and we're going to test also 4.1 Mini GPT model, which is a new model that OpenAI just announced. So I just want to see, just for the purpose of presentation, of how the think tool works. So let's go, before we start putting any inputs, let's look at the AI agent system message. So we're gonna go inside, we can see that system messages, you are a math expert that can solve different mathematical problems. Also, thinking tool, use this tool to stop and think if you're correct. So pretty straightforward, pretty simple, and we're gonna give it a couple math problems, see how it works with it. So you can see that I have the Anthropic chat model attached, which is going to be Claude 3.5 Sonnet. So let's start with something very simple. 1 plus 1 minus 3. So let's see how it works. Let's wait a bit. So as you can see, it first went to the to the chat model, then it went back to the think tool, and then it went to the chat model. And let's go and look inside the logs. But before that, let me make my screen a bit smaller, and let me move it to the left, actual right corner. So now that I have thought through, no, actual logs. You're a math expert that can solve different mathematical problems. So to solve the simple mathematical equation, I can provide the answer directly. However, I'll use the thinking tool to demonstrate the process and ensure correctness. So let's go to the think tool and say, see, so the output was response. Let's break it down, the equation 1 plus 1 minus 3 by step. First, we perform addition. 1 plus 1 is going to equal 2. Then we subtract 3 from the result. 2 minus 3 is going to equal minus 1. Therefore, the final answer is going to be 1 plus 1 minus 3 is equal minus 1. And then that's what the model spit out to us. And we got the solution is minus 1. So pretty simple. And you can see that even in a small problems like that, Claude 3.7, Claude 3.5, any Anthropic chat model is going to go to think tool and communicate with it. So now let's try it with the GPT model. Let's disconnect it and let's see how GPT model responds to this tool and works with it. So let's go inside. We can see that the model is set up to GPT-4.1 Mini. And let's see. 1 plus 1 minus 3. Oh. 1 plus 1 minus 3. That was my mistake. So let's see. OpenAI chat model. Let's see how it works. So as you can see, we got the result. Was very quick. It didn't go to the think tool because it was pretty simple problem. What I've noticed from a bunch of tests, when it comes to OpenAI models, they usually don't go towards the thinking tool unless there's a problem or something is very complex happening. Where Anthropic chat models always like to rely on think tool. Doesn't matter if the problem is easy or if the task is complicated. It always will go and rely on the think tool. So now let's disconnect it again and give a problem that cannot be arithmetically solved, like division by 0, and see how it does. So let's see, it's gonna go inside the chat model, the input, then it should go to the thinking tool, and then it's gonna go back to the chat model. So let's go and see the logs. So in the logs, before I provide an answer, I need to carefully consider this question, as it involves a mathematical concept that requires precise understanding. Let me use thinking tool to ensure I provide an accurate response. So let's go inside think tool and it says the expression 1 divided by 0 is the division by 0, which is identified in the standard arithmetic. So as you can see, I'm not going to read it all out loud, but you can see the process of this thinking tool, how it works, how it thinks, how the Anthropic chat model executes and works with this tool that is attached. And now let's try the same thing with OpenAI chat model. Let's attach, just copy, and let's see. As you can see, didn't go to the think tool and just give us the answer very quick. Division by zero is undefined in mathematics. It means you can't divide it by a number zero, so 1 divided by 0 doesn't have a valid value. Both of them are correct, and it doesn't mean that if Anthropic chat model didn't have the think tool attached, it wouldn't give you the correct answer. No, this workflow was just to demonstrate how Anthropic usually relies on a think tool. Doesn't matter what kind of task you give it, 90% of the cases it's gonna go and communicate with the think tool, where OpenAI chat model likes to rely on itself. So now let's go and test something more complex that have more tools attached and see how think tool works inside there. So now we'll move to a bit more complex yet still simple workflow, but now we have different tools attached to our AI agent as well as the LLM model and the think tool attached. So now in this workflow, I want to test how Anthropic chat model and OpenAI chat model is going to work with different tools with addition of a think tool attached to AI agent and how it's going to communicate the information and what kind of responses we're going to get. So let's go inside the AI agent and let's read the system message that I gave it. So your helpful thinking assistant that uses tools to execute different needed tasks. Here inside the tools, I basically described every tool that we have like calendar, Gmail, and so on. And also I described think tool. Use think tool to always double check and verify if everything was executed correctly. If after thinking and verifying everything is correct, then give us the information of the output that was asked for. So now we're gonna start with something very simple. We're gonna ask to create an event for tomorrow at 3 p.m. So let's at 3 p.m. So now it's gonna think, it's gonna go inside the create event, and we should get the information unless it goes to the think tool. As you can see, the Anthropic model always likes to rely on the think tool, even though the task was pretty simple and straightforward and it actually executed everything correctly. But let's go inside the AI agent now. Let's read the logs. So we gave us the input with the system message as well as my human input. Let's create an appointment for tomorrow at 3 p.m. Certainly, I'd be happy to help you create an appointment for tomorrow. So it goes and creates an event. It created the correct event for April 19th at 3 p.m. till 4 p.m. Then it got the information and then it went back to the think tool. So I have created an appointment for tomorrow at 3 p.m. using the create event function. The event was successfully created with the following details: start time 3 p.m. and time 4 p.m. assuming a 1 hour duration, because it assumes I didn't give any information about the duration of our appointments. Event ID is whatever is given. Status confirmed. The appointment was created as requested with correct date and time. Everything appears to be in order. So do you remember from whatever I was saying when we were reading the Anthropic blog regarding the think tool? It's basically like a pit stop for AI agent to double check itself. So it's gonna stop, go through all the steps that it went through. So it went through the create event, and then it was about to generate the answers that it's gonna be that was about to be output to us. But before the model output this information to us, it went to the thing to just double check itself before giving us the output. Now let's try something else. Let's try deleting an event from my calendar that just doesn't exist. I'm gonna put a random calendar ID, event ID, and let's see how it works. Let's delete event from calendar with ID. Okay, let's see if we give it a false information how it's gonna handle it. You can see it. We got the narrow from delete event node tool, and it went to the think tool, and we got the information. So let's go inside the AI agent and look through the logs again. So it got information with the system message and my message. Then it went and tried to delete the event ID. The resource you are requesting couldn't be found. Then it went back to the chat model, and then it went to the think node again. We attempted to delete an event with the IDs that I gave from the calendar, but received an error stating that the resource couldn't be found. This likely means the event doesn't exist or has already been deleted. We should inform the user of this outcome and suggest the verified event ID or check if the event still exists in their calendar. So basically, it thinks, hey, we did this step. For some reason, we couldn't find the information. What are the possible solutions, or what are the possible problems? That basically suggesting us that we verified the event ID and check if the event still exists in the calendar. And we got the output talking about it. We attempted to delete. To resolve this, I would suggest the following. So you can tell that Anthropic chat models always like to rely on think nodes. But now let's try the OpenAI chat model. Let's disconnect it from the AI agent and let's connect the OpenAI chat model. Let's also do something very simple. Let's create an event for tomorrow. That's gonna be simple. And let's see. It will go and communicate with create event tool. And yes, it does. It does. It did go to the think node, to the think tool, and communicated with it in this case. So let's go inside and let's look at the logs. So system, you're helpful. Basically, it got the system message as well as my input. Then for the output, it was pretty much nothing. It created the event. Then OpenAI chat model got information that the event was created, and then it decided to go to inside this think tool and think about it. Create an event for tomorrow at 6 p.m. to 7 p.m. Event ID is everything was executed correctly because it was. That's what we asked for. Now let's give it the false information and see if it still goes to the think tool. Right, interesting. Didn't go to the think tool, even though you might have assumed, hey, it would probably went to the think tool when something goes wrong, 100%. Like if it goes to the think tool when something is correct and is similar and I'm sorry, is trivial and easy to perform, it goes to the think tool. But when something is more complex, like not finding the calendar ID event, it didn't go to the think tool. It didn't communicate, hey, maybe there is a mistake or something. That's something I noticed with the OpenAI chat models. I've tested it a bunch of times. It's kind of random. Sometimes it goes, sometimes it doesn't. Sometimes it checks itself, sometimes it doesn't. Whereas the Anthropic chat model, 9 out of 10 times, it's always going to go to the think tool, where OpenAI chat model maybe once out of 10 times. The event ID was the ID that we gave couldn't be found in the calendar. Could you just verify the event ID or provide more details about the event? So basically, we got exactly the same information that we would have gotten without the think tool. So I hope you understood what this think tool does and when it can be implemented. If I was you guys, I would implement it in a more complex and tool heavy and constraints heavy prompt inside the AI agent kind of workflows and solutions that you create. That's when think tool can be implemented. If you have constraints in your prompt and you have a lot of tools that AI agents have to communicate with, a big kind of sequence of tools. Otherwise, you're just gonna waste your tokens. It's not gonna be helpful. It's not gonna help you out. You're just wasting your time. I think if your prompt is pretty straightforward, simple, not hard, and not a lot of tools are used, don't bother. I hope you guys enjoyed this video and you found everything informative. If you still have questions or you want to just chat about this thing tool, just comment down below and I'll get back to you as soon as possible. I hope you have a great rest of your day. Bye bye.